you just got back from a trip to Taiwan. In addition to gifting their new president a Stetson, a gift from Texas. What were your takeaways from that trip?
Well, it was right after the president's inauguration, president of Taiwan. We were greeted by a blockade, a Chinese military blockade of naval ships, aircraft carriers. It's quite disturbing, really. And it was a prelude of what they would do in the event of an invasion of Taiwan. So they're getting more aggressive. They warned us repeatedly not to go. They sanctioned me, but I gave the president a black Stetson hat, kind of a symbol of the West, and the rugged strength and independence of the cowboy, and he loved it, and they put it all over their news. And I think it was important for them to see a bipartisan delegation showing that kind of support for Taiwan.
Right. You've been warning for some time about Chinese aggression towards Taiwan. If they were to move on Taiwan today, are we ready to counter that aggression?
I think we are ready. I don't know if Taiwan is. I sign off on all the foreign military weapon sales, 22 of them weapon systems that have yet to go into Taiwan. So that's a serious concern. And beyond that, Ryan, I think we went to TSMC. So I introduced the CHIPS Act to try to pull supply chain out of Taiwan because it's so vulnerable to China. 90% of the advanced semiconductor chips are manufactured at TSMC in Taiwan. And, we had conversations directly, what would happen if Taiwan invaded? And the answer was very clear that they would shut down. That would be a 90% global supply shut down. It would send the entire global economy into a tailspin and an economic depression. So, the stakes are really high here. And I think we need to show deterrence so that Chairman Xi makes the conclusion that the risk is not worth the reward.
Yeah, tangential to all this, of course, is the NDAA. Leader McConnell gave a stark warning on the Senate floor today about the needs of Taiwan. He warned that we have insufficient long-range missile capacities in that area and that all those and more need to be added into this package. When you think about the NDAA, though, what sticks out to you for Texas?
Well, I think it's what does it do for the rank and file military, our troops? And it's really a quality of life family package that gives them a pay raise, gives them child care, medical care, mental health programs for those suffering from PTSD. I think the Israel-Taiwan stuff is important in there. Remember, in the supplemental, I put a foreign military financing package of $2 billion and also almost $2 billion in presidential drawdown authority for Taiwan. And that's important for the deterrence to ensure that we don't see an invasion in the Pacific and maybe one in Europe that's not unlike my father's generation, World War II. People ask me what keeps me up at night. I don't want to experience a world war like my father's generation did.
What do you think the odds of that are if the United States does not act in the ways you believe we should?
If we don't show deterrence, dictators will continue to take advantage of that. Weakness invites aggression and conflict and war, and you project strength, you get peace. What Reagan talked about and Churchill, and I worry that they're becoming more emboldened and aggressive, and I think that's why the deterrence here, is so important that we demonstrate that, so we don't have a situation, but maybe some miscalculation happens in the Taiwan Straits that starts something like this, and we want to make sure that just never happens.
Yeah. Another very volatile situation on our own southern border. You called the new executive action from the White House an election year stunt. I want you to square this circle for me, because you and other Republicans on the Hill have been calling on the Biden administration to take more executive action on the border. You've said that he doesn't need congressional action to do it. And then after this executive order, well, there's nothing but criticism of it. What do you, Is it possible for President Biden to do more on the border without political consequences here? Or what do you think the impact of this executive order will be?
It allows 2,500 illegals in every day before they start any enforcement. I don't think that's a very serious border security proposal. What we told them when we were in the White House was, look, Congress has already given you the authorities and the tools you need to secure the border. And I think it's interesting. He said he didn't have it, but now he has an executive order. Well, he could also go back to the policies of the prior administration that were working, like Remain in Mexico, which has really been on the books for almost 30 years. And we know from Border Patrol that it had a direct cause and effect on the crisis that we see at the border. Beyond the 9.5 million to the 200,000 fentanyl deaths, as a former federal prosecutor, counterterrorism chief, I look at what was just recently happened. 8 ISIS-K arrested in the United States that got through the southern border from Tajikistan. I got briefed on this in the classified space, and I can tell you it's a very serious matter if people like that are coming into our country exploiting our southern border. When I chaired the Homeland Security Committee, we were always worried about the southern border. We never really got proof of Al-Qaeda, say, crossing in through the southern border, but now it's happening. And if there were 8 arrested, how many more are in the United States that can perpetrate an attack from within?
Right. You and I talk so much about Ukraine and the threats abroad, but how much do you worry about the threats of a terrorist attack commencing on U.S. soil?
Very much so. It went from foreign fighters to radicalization over the internet, but now we're back to ISIS-K operatives trying to get into the United States. Part of this has to do with the fall of Afghanistan and the complete and embarrassing surrender to the Taliban. We know that ISIS-K is reconstituting sufficient to conduct external operations. And that's the key. External plots to hit countries outside of Afghanistan, like what they did outside of Moscow. And now we have these ISIS-K plotters that we arrested that made it to the United States across our southern border. As the FBI Director Wray said, he sees red flashing, blinking lights everywhere. I have to take that seriously.